Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, that pretty strong BMF. I'm making this video in response to one of my new subscribers. He's a personal acquaintance of mine, and he's trying to pass a physical test. He has to perform some number of push-ups in a given amount of time. So he asked me how he might better accomplish that. Funny little story about my personal history before I go on to my explanations and demonstrations. I too had to pass a physical test quite a long time ago, about a decade ago, when I was training to be potentially in law enforcement. So I had to do specifically 29 sit-ups. I trained repeatedly, regularly, to do those sit-ups. I got onto a sit-up bench and I did those sit-ups and I tried to work those abs and get stronger. And I know I was, but when I finally went to take the test, I failed ultimately. I passed everything else, their cognitive tests, their other physical performance tests. I was among the better applicants in those regards, but when it came to those darn sit-ups, I failed on number 29. I could not get the very last sit-up, so I failed, and they obviously would refuse to accept me at that point. And now I'm still just a package handler, and I said, forget law enforcement. Anyway, so let's talk about how we can do as many sit-ups as possible in a given amount of time. Well, there are 3 muscle groups involved in sit-ups. You're working the rectus abdominis, that is commonly known as the abs. When you think of abs, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the 6-pack, or in some people's cases, 4-pack abs. That's the rectus abdominis. Now, beneath that there's a deeper layer of muscle tissue beneath that it kind of runs down a little lower as well, more towards your hip and groin area. That's called the transverse abdominis, and it actually wraps all the way around. It's not just in your front; it actually wraps around all the way around your back. And if you've ever seen powerlifters, or really anyone like in a gym, and they've got those big bands, those big like weightlifting belts that they use, they're huge, and they're not even wearing them on their waist; they're wearing them around their abdomen like this. Those belts are designed to emulate the very purpose of the transverse abdominis. So if you need to wear one of those belts, it's because your transverse abdominis muscle is not strong enough to support the lift that you're trying to do. That's also a back brace. When you wrap your back brace around you, same thing. It's emulating the purpose of the transverse abdominis. So again, if you've got back pain, prone to back injury, get stronger and you'll have less of that. But anyway, that's muscle number 2. Muscle number 3 are the hip flexors down here. And I've always had, I find, rather weak hip flexors. They're often sore and tender, and they're just weak. And I think that's why I failed that physical fitness test about a decade ago, because my hip flexors couldn't handle it. So we got to strengthen those hip flexors. All right, so now that I've described the three muscle groups involved in sit-ups, let's get to some demonstrations, starting with a variation of the standard sit-up, which I will demonstrate on the floor right now. All right, so we're on the floor, and as you can see, I've got my trusty yoga/exercise mat with me. I've been using on and off for years for various things. I obviously need something, right, because it's a hardwood floor underneath me, and we're not doing these on a hardwood floor. I'm not doing them, and neither should you. So, we're going to do some sit-ups. Now, I've also got this pad, okay, and I'm going to take this pad and nestle it right behind my hips, right behind my butt right here. Get it nice and snug and come back. Now, sit-ups are often criticized as being kind of bad for your back, and frankly, I have to agree. I really resent the fact that they are so widely used as standards of fitness for various examinations. You know, police, military, whatever. They want sit-ups, and frankly, I don't get it. There are better ways to determine whether someone's fit for the job, but we have to do them regardless because that's the test, right? So we're going to do them. We're not going to do them in a standard manner, however. The standard way is you just lie flat on the back and you put your legs up like this and then pick some arm position and go up and down and whatever. I really don't like this exercise, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to put this behind us right here because this is going to provide some lumbar support so that we're not trashing our back doing these sit-ups. And we're going to just lay our legs flat on the floor like this. We're not going to bend them and raise them and all this sort of thing. And that's actually going to help keep them down, believe it or not, rather than flailing about as we're trying to do our repetitions. All right, so we got this behind us, providing lumbar support. And if we want it to be, we're going to do 2 levels of difficulty here. The first one is we're going to have our hands somewhere in front of us, okay? Now as we come up, we want to make sure that we're tensing our core, including our abs and like our hips and our buttocks, okay? We're going to tense our glutes as well. We want to keep everything activated and firm so that we don't hurt anything. So we're going to come up this way. And when I'm doing that, notice I don't come all the way forward because now I can feel undue tension. Tension is good, but you don't want excessive undue tension. It's the wrong kind of tension. You want muscular tension that's going to strengthen your body. You don't want tension like in your joints that's just going to hurt you. So we're only coming up to about here, and then we come back down again. Breathe in. Breathe out when you get to the top. And when I do these, I'm keeping, the whole time I'm doing this, I'm keeping my glutes like tense. Okay, I'm contracting my glutes. I'm not just letting my hips kind of sink into the floor because that's going to be painful. So we're not going to do that. We're going to stay tense the whole time. Now, notice I have my hands behind my back now. That's going to be the more difficult variation. This right here is going to be significantly easier than putting your hands behind your head. Now don't use your hands, to press your neck up like this. That's not what you're doing this. If you have to press up your neck when you have your hands behind your head, then you should just be doing them with your hands in front. So you can put them behind, but if you really want to play it safe, just put them back, have them floating freely. Don't actually rest your head on your hands. Have them floating freely like this. Nice slow repetitions. Nice and easy on the way up, and perhaps more importantly, nice and easy on the way down. I'm not up here and then slamming down. I'm not just going like this, rocking and using momentum. Maybe they'll allow you to do that when you actually take your test. I don't know. But the point is, if you can do many of them well in a way that's difficult to master, you're definitely going to be able to do them in an easier fashion. All right? And by the way, you will not be able to do 50 or 100 of these. These are difficult, the way that I'm showing you to do them right now. Okay, especially if you're having your hands behind your head like this. I mean, I have pretty strong abdominal muscles, and these are a struggle. These are just body weight exercises, and they're difficult when you do them like this. As a matter of fact, when you have a support behind your back like this, you can sometimes, if it's firm and tall enough, like you can actually get better ab flexion. And it makes for a better exercise because it gives you a better range of motion and fatigues the muscle faster. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2 is we're going to do an isometric hold. What is an isometric hold? Isometric exercises are basically just, well, it's called the hold for a reason. You just hold a position, okay? In this case, we're going to, well, first off, we're actually going to take this cushion out because that's going to hamper us. It's going to provide support for us when we actually don't want it, because we just want to come up a little bit. We're going to bring our feet up a bit, hold our hands in front like this, and come up with our abs and hold. You can rock up to that position if you need to. And we're just going to hold like this. And you want to hold this position as long as you can. Make sure your feet aren't on the floor. Make sure you're holding them slightly above the floor. Just a few inches is fine. Hold those hands steady in front of you. Don't let yourself rock about like this. Try to stay nice and firm. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I'm shaking right now. Like everything in here is just jiggling like this, because this is difficult. I actually first did those in a martial arts class. I used to train when I was a child, I trained in karate, and when I was older, well, still as a kid, but then also as an adult, I earned my first degree black belt in Taekwondo, and that's actually the first place where I learned how to do an isometric hold. And, you know, when our instructor had us do that, we were pretty sure he was just trying to kill us. There were a lot of times when he was trying to kill us, I feel. But, you know, that made me who I am today. So, thanks to Master Barrett for that. All right, so exercise number 3. We're going to get on to those hip flexors. Physical fitness coaches will instruct you to have as little leg action as possible whenever you're training your abs, okay? So it may seem ironic that I'm telling you we're going to work the hip flexors now, because it's like, oh, it's an ab exercise. The idea, obviously, it's about isolation, right? You want to isolate the ab muscles if you're trying to build specifically your abs. But that's not what we're trying to do in this video. We're trying to strengthen all of the muscle groups associated with a particular movement, that is sit-ups. Try to make them as strong and as enduring as possible. So we're going to strengthen all those muscle groups, including the hip flexors. So how do you do that? Just simple leg lifts. That's all we're going to do. And for this, we're also going to take out our back cushion. And the way I like to do these, so that it does not hurt your hips or your tailbone or anything, is don't put your hands to the side like this. You can do that if your surface is soft enough, but this is just a thin yoga mat, and I'm wearing also rather thin pants, and there's not a lot of cushion there for my cushion there. So I'm gonna put my wrists and hands actually beneath my butt, flat on the floor, you know, palms down, and use those to support my hips so that they're not digging into the floor. And when I raise my legs, I'm not going to use my hands and arms to propel myself upward. That's not the point. The point is to just keep my hips from hurting, okay? So we're going to lie straight. We can do straight down like this and lift. I prefer to look forward and go up and down like this. You can give a little bend to your knees. You can go just straight up and down. But this is the motion that you want to perform, whether you're coming up and crunching a little bit like this, or you're just going straight up and down with your legs. If you crunch like this, you're going to be working a little bit more of your abs, a little bit. But if you go straight-legged like this and really concentrate just on the legs and getting your butt up off the floor a little bit, that's a lot of hip flexor action going on there too. So either way you feel more comfortable is fine because they're both working. It's primarily a hip flexor exercise, which is again why trainers will say don't do leg raises for training your abs, because it's not really training your abs, it's for your hip flexors. All right, so those are the first three. Fortunately, we get to get up off the floor now because we get to work our transverse abdominis and we don't have to be down here for that. So here we go. All right, so we're on our feet again. Yay, that was getting uncomfortable. So the transverse abdominis, here we go. This is, in a sense, also an isometric exercise, a bit of an obscure one. It's not talked about a lot, it seems, and you've probably never seen anyone do this before. Maybe you have, but it's rather uncommon, so I kind of doubt it. This is a really cool exercise, actually, because you can do it anywhere, and theoretically anytime, so long as you're awake, obviously. It may be socially awkward if you do it at any time and any place, but you can in fact do it anytime, any place. So, what is it? It's called, at least commonly among bodybuilders, it's called the vacuum pose. I've also heard it termed something like the hollow body pose or hollow body movement or something like that. What are we talking about? We're just talking about sucking in your gut. That's it. That is a legitimate exercise. Now, I'm not talking about tensing your abs. I'm not talking about like engaging your core. Like if we're doing a lot of exercises and I tell you, we're going down and doing our deadlifts and you want to engage your core, you want to engage your core when you're doing your ab exercises, obviously, like tighten those abs. Like, if someone's hitting you, that's engaging your core. You tighten your abs so that, it hurts less, that it'll hurt you. We're not talking about that. We're talking about sucking in your gut, which is different. So here's the difference. So right now I'm kind of relaxed, right? So this is me relaxed. This is me engaging my core, okay? Right here, relaxed. My relaxed isn't much different from engaging my core because I tend to just tense up. Once you start developing your abs and developing your muscles, you'll find that you just sort of habitually end up moving them. You just activate them sort of subconsciously, I suppose. So anyway, relaxed, activating my core. Here's the difference. Got my core activated, sucking in my gut. You see that? See how thin my waist has gotten now that I'm sucking in my gut? The easiest way for me to do this is to picture someone like trying to poke me, or that picture, someone's got a knife and they're threatening you with it like this. Like if you've seen Peter Pan, like Disney's Peter Pan, that's exactly what they do. One of the pirates, he's got the sword and he's about to probe Mr. Smee, and Mr. Smee's sucking in his gut like this. I think about that all the time when I do these. But that's exactly what it is. You can just breathe in, stand up nice and straight and breathe in. And then once you breathe in, you just suck in your gut. Push it in as far as you can push it in. If you're doing it right, especially if you do it for more than just a few seconds, try to do it as long as you can. But if you're doing it right, it may feel strange because you'll feel it in your back. Why? Because if you recall, the transverse abdominis goes all the way. It's literally a band of muscle that runs horizontally around your midsection right here, just like those belts, just like those back braces. So that's all you gotta do. Suck in your gut, and you train your transverse abdominis, and you may be able to pound out a couple more sit-ups as a result after training that muscle, which is, again, actually beneath the commonly referenced ab muscles, the rectus abdominis that everyone is familiar with. Fun fact, if you regularly train your transverse abdominis, you do that vacuum pose, okay? I do it practically every day. I do them while I'm at work, most commonly. I'm lifting stuff, I'm lifting boxes, and especially if there's a moment of peace where I can just breathe for a few seconds, just and just take a moment. I'll suck in my gut and work that transverse abdominis. It's a very good spontaneous exercise. You can perform it anytime you want. If you do that regularly, you could shrink your waist by as much as an inch, depending on your exact body type, height, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, individual factors apply, but you could reduce your waistline by as much as an inch just by performing this exercise regularly. Because as you strengthen that band going around your midsection, it actually causes it to tighten up perpetually, and it just shrinks your waist down. So if you want a slimmer waist, that's one of the tricks you can employ. So that's it. I did sit-ups, I did leg raises, I did isometric hold down on the floor, and then I did this other isometric exercise with the vacuum pose that bodybuilders like to do. I'm not a fan of it, actually. I think it looks weird, but I do them every day because I want to maintain that slim waistline and be strong in my midsection so I don't hurt my back. So that's it for this one. I hope that I helped my new subscriber with a few tips on pushing out as many pull-ups, sit-ups as he can within the given time frame. See you in the next video. Peace out.